So here's where we came down last night. Yesterday it turned out to be a 26.8 mile day, AT miles. But we did 2 additional Blue Blaze miles, one to the Woods Hole and then the other one down to the Holiday Lodge, which were really basic accommodations, I might add. So today we're going to start with the descent that we were dealing with last night, but now in the daytime at least, so we can sort of pick our route a little better, protect the knees and the feet a little better. Okay, as far as the plan, today is just 6.8. We just hiked the 0.9 of a mile, actually a full mile from the Holiday Lodge. We had eaten breakfast at the Mexican place. It was good. It was good food. Not sure how Mexican will do with us for the first miles onto the trail, but we'll find that out. Oops, that out too. So essentially, of the 6.8 we're about to do, we are downhill to, you can probably see it, the little town, this edge of the town, and then straight up the hill there on the far side. And we do 2 sizable climbs up to the ridge line, and then tomorrow is really the ridge line all the way over for 10 miles. Pretty, you know, it's up and down, but it's pretty level, not too bad. And then once you can see it, the 10 miles is basically from that line, see that line behind the tree or in the telephone pole, all along there, the 10 miles, and then boom, you see that elevation in the background? That elevation is the beginning of, or has some intense climbs. It climbs about 2,000 feet. And today, I believe our ascent in this 6.8 miles is 2407, I believe, was the number of feet. So it's going to be a pretty steep climb up out of here, but it doesn't go to a high elevation because we're going to be so low once we get down there. You see that? You can see the bottom. And then we will go 2407 basically straight up to the ridge line, and then from the ridge line today we'll pretty much stop, but then tomorrow we start with nothing but 10 miles of ridge line, so it'll be an easy start, and then we hit that ascent that I showed you. So that's what we're looking at. You can see it's just here looking up the degree of descent that we were dealing with yesterday. I mean, it's just steep, and oh man, I mean, it was, you know, a lot of times when you're doing the switchback, you're just doing a switchback like this, see, it just flows. It flows. On the other side of the road, every one of those resulted in either a log or a stone staircase. Not to ocean standards for some reason. I don't know where OSHA is, but anyway, not to their standards. And then it would drop you down, usually about twice, at least twice this distance, or maybe 3 times this distance, before you could do the switchback. So you could tell the degree of descent from that. It was rough. And it was rough, of course, because it was in the middle of the night. We got in about 10 something. But of course that got delayed because we had the 0.9 down to Perisburg. So just be aware of that. All right, so do a little ascent here and I will get back to you. Hey guys, it's been a heck of an ascent, so I haven't really, and there hasn't been a lot of views. There was a river at one point, but it was too steep for me to take the time to grab the picture. But I thought I'd come up. I had my first experience. I was coming around a bend, sort of like the one we're going to come up to here, and I smelled this beautiful smell, like a fake flower garden or something. And as I was on an ascent, and as I looked up and came around this little bit of a bend, it was 2 day hikers. And so for the first time, I've heard that, funny thing where you smell a day hiker before you actually see them. And this was my first experience where I was like, they smell good. And we just came from town ourselves, but we didn't really bathe, so we don't really smell any much different than we did before. But because it was such a late night. Sort of an interesting old barn or something. So anyway, other than that, just kind of kicking along here. It has been quite an ascent. And now, unfortunately, much to my great chagrin, I'm descending. But I know that I still have like 3 miles left. And our old adage is, when you are surrounded by elevation, you know what you're doing next. So the fact that I'm giving or taking back any territory is horrible, because it just means I'm going to have to give it back in triplicate not too far down the pike here. So I really do not want, and I don't want this banging on my knees either. So it's like a double whammy. A, I give up this ground, and B, it tears up my knees. I know what's coming. That is coming. So I hate this. But I really came up just to share that first event with you when I smelled my first day hikers before I saw them. Sort of funny. All right, it's 4:30. I predict I'll be at the shelter about 6. Is Saturday, I think the 22nd. I believe the 22nd of April. And anybody who knows what happens on Saturdays. So when we hit the parking lot at the base of all of this, before proceeding, there was a bus that said Boy Scouts of the United States of America. Troop, blah, 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 Charlotte, North Carolina. And it had a support vehicle with it, with a trailer with a similar emblem on it, which means we have a busload of Boy Scouts and all of their accoutrements. And there were also about 15 cars in the parking lot. And this shelter being 6.7 miles is about the perfect distance for them to take a day section hike with the Boy Scouts, or for 15 couples to do either a day hike or a section hike. So I fear that the shelter area is going to be swamped. And that's a problem, only in as far as when we get up to the ridge line, we are going to be running along power lines. So there's going to be, of course, certain restrictions to that. There's no water whatsoever. So we have to take water it's about 1.3 miles prior to the shelter is the only water for the next, I can't remember if it's 7 or 9 miles. And then, so we have to take enough water for dinner, breakfast, and for tomorrow from that one water source. And then we may get to that shelter and it's going to be full 6 o'clock. And then, of course, we're not in the shelters. I'm just talking about the area. And then what happens, of course, is then we move on, but there's not going to be anything because we then have 10 miles of ridge line under the power towers. And that's going to be a problem. So I'm not predicting great things on a Saturday for our hike out of Perisburg. But we were all sort of hell-bent on not taking a zero. So we will pay the price, undoubtedly, for this decision. And we'll learn from that and move on. 0.1 from the shelter. The key is completely confused. He smells us, but because the wind's at our back.
I think he sees us too. I just don't think he gives a shit.
But he's looking to the left, up the hill.
He's pretty decent size.
Yeah, pretty healthy. Yeah.
Probably.
Interesting. Oh, there he goes. Maybe. Yeah, we'll definitely have to hang our stuff now.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna hang your sack.
Yeah, we'll have a pretty sunset out here too. So the bear was about 100 yards back behind us. Just as a point of reference. And we were very close to the shelter, so yeah, this will be the first time we have to start. We've been hanging our bags more frequently, but that we'll actually have to, now that we know they're up and active. Oh, there's a shelter over there. Can you see it? Oh man, there's just one person there, and it's a tiny shelter. It had been described by maybe Steve Walker, Big Bird, that the shelter had been sort of trashed by day hikers. And you know, you could probably see how that would happen. People come up here to party. It's a beautiful spot. We just need we don't use the shelter anyway. We just need a spot to put tent up, and that is that. I see somebody has done their little rock formation up here. Pretty look down the valley, huh? So here's the setup for tonight. That is Crockett's. Over further in the back there is Footloose's hammocks. And then my tent is there. And in reference to the shelter is there. And then if we swing around, you'll see the limb that is right in the middle of the screen that is horizontal. From that is our bear bag. So it's a good distance away. So if the bear comes back tonight, we won't have any issues with drawing him right up against our hammocks or tents. And then reference to, there is a privy here, right there. So that's the setup for tonight. Now it's time to get changed into night clothes and to get our eat on, our grub on. I will see you in the morning.